Are you scared?
You're listening to the Blair Witch Podcast, Episode 7, with your hosts, Taylor and Alexandra.
Do me. Hello, hello. Oh, yes.
We're trying something new. You're listening to the Blair Witch Podcast, Episode 7, with your hosts, Taylor and Alexandra. Welcome.
Is that coming after our intro?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We're going to pretend the intro already happened. And we paid that voiceover artist to do that intro for us.
You've always wanted to be an intro artist.
Now I am. I mean, that wasn't me. What are you talking about?
A movie voice.
And now I'm a podcast voice.
Yes.
With you. So, finally, episode number... I don't know why I say finally. I guess because we took like a 3-week sabbatical.
Yes. Not that we had much going on. Well, we kind of did, but we also didn't.
Well, we moved. We moved to another state. That's pretty much what's been going down. It's been really getting in the way of actually being able to watch a movie together and record an episode on it.
But now we're actually together.
Yeah. I almost did an episode on my own. I watched the movie and everything, and the movie just upset me so much. I'm like, I'm not doing this.
Because it was bad?
Yeah. It's just like a complete ripoff.
What movie was it?
Well,
you don't want to say?
I'm not going to get too much into it because I might end up doing a solo episode on it, but it's called Shed of the Dead. And it was like a ripoff of Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, interesting.
It's like they tried to make it an homage, but it ended up just being like a complete ripoff. They're trying too hard to be like it. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Would you like to present the movie that you decided to watch?
Well, yeah, so we watched As Above, So Below, which came out in 2014, which I feel like it came out sooner than that. Like, I thought it was more recent. Time flies, I guess.
Yeah.
It was directed by a man named John Eric Dowdle. And this movie reminded me of a lot of other movies. So should we just say like the basic synopsis of it? It kind of...
Yeah, I mean...
It starts out kind of like National Treasure-y to me, where there's a girl following in her father's footsteps on trying to find this treasure.
Right.
And she's young and she has like 1,000 PhDs and she speaks a bunch of languages. So she's really smart. And she's trying to find the Philosopher's Stone, which I also found out during this movie that's a actual thing, not that J.K. Rowling
not from Harry
created
Potter.
it. I didn't know that was real.
Broke your heart.
And I didn't know Nicholas Flamel was also a real person. So she has this obsession with finding this stone that apparently can turn any metal into gold and can also grant eternal life if you find it. And
they covered all that in Harry Potter.
Yeah. I don't remember it turning things into gold, though. I didn't know that.
Maybe not.
So, yeah, basically the movie is her trying to find the stone. She believes it's in the catacombs under Paris. And what do you think happens? They get stuck down there.
Well, I thought they were going to make it out right after they got in there.
Well, I actually like the idea of this movie because I think most people know about the catacombs at this point.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they're creepy just to begin with. They put people's dead bodies under there. So just the thought of being trapped under there is really scary.
6 million, I heard.
Yeah, so I think the concept of the movie was good. I'll say I had low expectations.
I had high expectations.
Really?
Yeah, because I didn't know... I don't think I knew anything going into this movie. And I think I heard a couple reviews saying that it was really good. Thinking back now, I don't know where those reviews were. But I guess my expectations were not met.
Well, it was a found footage, and I'm kind of over those.
That was like a slap in the face when it started. Because you said going into it, you knew it was going to be found footage, but I didn't.
Yeah, I remember seeing the previews. And so yeah, I'm trying to think of where we should start. That's kind of
Let's start with the whole found footage aspect. It was so annoying. Well, okay, what we used to do is a spoiler-free
that's
review,
done.
but I say screw that.
We also watched it on Netflix. It's on Netflix right now.
Yeah. So the quick synopsis from beginning to end is that chick. I don't even remember these characters' names. Whatever. So shitty. Characters in air quotes.
I just remember Benji because I keep yelling his name because he keeps messing up.
Benji kept getting hurt and stuck and like bringing everyone down.
Benji was the cameraman.
Fucking face plants in the ground. I was so happy. Spoiler. No, just kidding. Long story short, the quick synopsis is that this group of people go on a tour through the catacombs to try to find the secret treasure. In this case, it's the Philosopher's Stone, like you said. Obviously, doesn't work out like they wanted it to. They do find the Philosopher's Stone, or she does, whatever her name. The main character's the girl.
Scarlet.
Yes. You definitely knew that from memory. Didn't peek over at your phone. Scarlet. She finds the stone, and obviously when shit hits the fan, people die one by one along the way. And then it ends with, them, all three of them in the end. It starts with 6, ends with 3 people eventually escaping. And along the way, they just, they deal with things that they feel guilty about, that they either did or didn't do, but people that they're close to, and they have to make amends or something like that in order to pass the trial. And I guess the trial, it's supposed to mirror like what the 9 gates of hell, Dante's Inferno story, that whole thing. But yeah, that's basically the rundown of the movie. Doesn't sound like a horrible movie when you explain it like that, right? I mean, like you said, the premise isn't bad.
I just feel like there were too many things they tried to shove into one movie. Because the first scene of the movie is her in Egypt, I think, somewhere like that. Some desert looking place. She finds this ancient artifact with all this writing on it, this ancient writing. So that's kind of like where it starts.
Well, yeah, she knows freaking 50 languages, but of course she doesn't understand the one language she needs to understand that inscriptions.
Right. So when she goes to Paris, she finds her friend George, who just breaks into old buildings and tries to fix stuff.
It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Which is like, he fixes like over 200-year-old church's bells. And it's like so stupid, but
with like no tools. He didn't have any tools.
But he had stuff all over his face because he's a handyman. He had dirt all over his face.
Ben Feldman is like the only actor I know in this movie.
What is he from? He looked really familiar.
He's got that face that everyone recognizes, but I have no idea what the hell he's from.
He played George in the movie.
Yeah. But just, you'll notice, because one of my notes is everything is extremely convenient for the story. Things that are just odd and don't seem possible or make sense kind of fall in line. That's one of them. It's almost like the classic like heist movie.
Mm-hmm.
If they get their team and then he's just in the middle of doing something and she just knows where he is. Like, how the hell did she know he'd be in the freaking clock, wherever that is? I
don't think they explain that.
No, and we'll get into it later, but that's not the first time. They just magically know where these people are. But he's just randomly in the top of the clock, and his gimmick is he fixes things. He breaks into places and fixes things, which is literally so stupid. Right,
so she uses George to help translate the language that she finds on this big goat head in Egypt that I mentioned at the beginning.
Yeah.
And so somehow they figure out that they need to read this gravestone or this stone in that art building in Paris. Remember that? And they go in there.
Yeah.
And they take it off the wall, and she knows that there's a secret writing on the back. And this also reminded me of National Treasure. Remember when they they put lemon juice in the hairdryer on the Declaration of Independence.
Well, it's like she doesn't know it's on the back. It's through the inscription.
Yeah, she's like, oh, it's something is on the back of this drawing or something. And so they flip it over, and then she puts like ammonia and like lights it on fire, and then this ancient script appears from nothing. And then somehow they figure out they have to go into the catacombs.
Well, it's annoying because it's almost like all the decisions that these people make are based on nothing. It's almost like they've got this weird knowledge that we're not keen to. I
guess we're just supposed to believe she's so smart. She has so many degrees and she speaks so many languages that she just knows what she's doing.
Yeah, they really rubbed that in your face in the beginning.
She's just so smart. She knows, so don't question what she's doing.
But she doesn't act like that. She just acts so annoying. Like she just constantly does things against everybody's wishes. She's always running ahead. Like she just grabs the freaking thing and tries to take it off the wall in this like museum. And everyone's like, what the fuck are you doing? And then, of course, she's not crazy because the writing is on the back. And it's like, how do you know to do all that? Like, it's almost like she's the biggest National Treasure fan.
And she's really Nick Cage.
Yeah, she's this movie's version of independent woman Nick Cage. It's like, so just, I don't know. I guess I didn't have too much of a problem with that, except like, looking back now is a little annoying. But yeah, I mean.
Yeah, so then they figure out that they need to get to a part of the catacombs that they can't reach easily. They have to get in some secret way. And so some ghost on their catacomb tour tells them to find Papillon.
Well, hold on, because I think this is before when they're trying to figure out where the tomb is, first of all. And it's not just the inscription on the back of the slab. It's like they lay down the map of the catacombs.
Oh, yeah.
And then they lay down a map of Paris. And the guy's like, you're saying this is where the tomb is supposed to be, but that's impossible because there aren't any catacombs that go over there. And then I don't even know how, but some like epiphany he has. And he's like, wait, there's a collapse here, and a collapse right on the exact dot that she thinks the catacomb is. And then I think that's the reasoning they use to like, there obviously must be some sort of
secret passage.
There. Yeah, if there's a collapse, as the Benji pointed out, his one contribution. How could it have collapsed if it's solid ground? I think he says. Like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, they go on the tour.
Yeah, so they go on the catacomb tour.
The official tour.
Yeah. And so they're just looking around and she's kind of like, oh, we have to go into like unauthorized area. And then they just turn around and there's this guy sitting there who's like, Papillon will show you how to get there. And then they turn around again and he's gone.
Yes, Papillon will show you.
And so
they're gone.
So now they have to try to find this Papillon who it's like.
Hold on, that's another convenient thing that just pops up out of nowhere. The one, like, right when they're starting to like realize there's no tunnel that goes this way. We have to go through that wall. They turn around and there's just conveniently a guy there. Which, I mean, looking back now, there could be a reason for, but he's just sitting there chilling, and it does one of like the cliche Batman things where they're like, "Oh, listen to this guy." They turn, and they're like, "Hey, we have to go find Papillon," and then they turn back, and the kid's gone, and you're like, "Oh my god, really?"
Yeah,
it's so stupid. But yeah, now they got to go find this Papillon guy, this dog.
So then they just go to like a nightclub. How do they even know to go there? They just go to a nightclub and they're like, "Is Papillon here?"
She used her 45 degrees to figure out how to find this person. One of her degrees must have been tracking people. Yeah. Not only does she know the freaking exact nightclub that this dude is at, they get in by saying the guy's name. They literally just said Papillon, like hoping the bouncer was like, all right. They all go in and then they're just like wandering through the club and immediately find him sitting on the bench. And they're like, "Are you Papillon?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Like, what? And he's just found him in this giant nightclub.
This man who knows all of the tunnels, I guess, who just hangs out at a nightclub with his friend,
yeah.
Suxi. Who also
is that
comes
his name?
No, that was the girl, Suxi.
Oh, see,
or something. So yeah, she basically asks him, "Will you take me? I know where this treasure is." And then of course he says he wants half of it.
That was another thing that was like so funny to me watching the movie, was that the split second changing of his mind because they're why do you want to go down there for these uncharted areas or whatever? And they're like, she thinks that there's treasure there, and he just thinks it's like the most ridiculous thing, like because he knows them like the back of his hand. It's like if there's treasure down there, I would have known about it. And then the guy was just like, no, she's serious. And he was like, we want half.
Yeah.
Like, what? Dude, it took you like half a second to believe her. This random person that found you in a club. You're just like, oh, yep, she's telling the truth. I want half of it.
And then as soon as we see Papillon, I wrote down the note, why is everyone so good looking? Because like the three main people all look like they're models and they're just so young and like attractive. And it just...
That's just French people, babe.
But two of them weren't even French. The girl wasn't she American? And so was George.
I don't know. They're all speaking. Oh, I thought you were talking about the Papillon's two people.
Oh, no. Papillon is obviously French. And then Ben Feldman he had an American accent. And then, the girl had like a British accent or something. But
it's a very diverse group of people.
But it was just like, they're all just so good looking and young. I was like, ugh. They're all just experts at their stuff already. It's like,
that's like such a cliche, though, with these kind of horror movies.
I know.
They're all supposed to be like the good looking group of people.
So they go down and then they start their journey to try to find.
Well, so George doesn't want to go down initially. They keep telling him, yeah, you're going down. And he's like, no, I'm not going down. And you're like, well, in my head, I'm like, wow, he's a smart one. But I'm like, I know he's going to go down. So I wonder how they're going to convince him. And it was literally they just kept pushing him along. And then he eventually went down with them. And then obviously got stuck, so he couldn't leave. But
it was because the police, remember, when they were about to go down.
Oh, the guy like tackles him, right?
They're about to go down this secret hole into the catacombs. And then the police come out of nowhere because they're in this no trespassing zone. So then he kind of gets shoved in with the group and he has to stay down there with them.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say the police. One random dude with a police jacket.
Yeah, you just see him like tackle someone.
Literally out of nowhere. Like
I don't even know who he tackled. And then
I thought he tackled George.
I don't know. It was so because the found footage. It was so shaky.
Well, you're telling me.
It was so shaky. I don't know what's happening.
One of my biggest gripes with this movie was the fact that it was found footage. But like, yeah, this random police officer, literally out of nowhere. There's like nothing going on around here at all. No indication. And it's a passing glance of the no trespassing stuff, and then all of a sudden, right when they're about to go in, conveniently, this dude just tackles them. So they're like, oh, we got to run away. But instead of just like running away, we have to run into the catacombs where it's like, obviously, if he really wanted to, he could follow you.
Yeah. Papillon threw some smoke bombs at the police, but then the police just like left them alone.
The dude was like, no, not smoke. I can't do my job with this smoke around.
Yeah. So it was like
left. I'm like, what?
But like, if that was their cause of, they needed a reason for George to be stuck down there with them. Why didn't they just want George? Why didn't they just make it so George wanted to go down in the first place? Just because they just needed an exciting scene. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like that the reason the police thing happened was because they needed a reason for George to be stuck down there.
Well, the reason he didn't want to go down there was because of his brother dying.
Oh yeah, because
or something.
Not on
a whale, but
no, that wasn't the reason. He said he didn't want to go because Scarlet had caused him to get put into a Turkish prison at some point. On some other mishap.
That was why he didn't want to go with her at all in the beginning.
I think that's why he didn't want to go down there, though.
I think it was because of his brother. Because he explains that.
Like at the end.
Not even. They explain it like right after they go down there. Because they were like, why didn't you want to come down here? And she was like, oh, well, his brother like drowned or something in a cave.
Oh, I must have missed that part.
Go down. Yeah.
I don't remember them explaining that at the beginning.
Because you're probably disoriented by all the camera shakes and all that stuff. Which brings me to my second point on why I hate found footage movies. It's like I think we talked about it with our review on the first Summoning.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like one big issue with found footage films is that they really have to establish why the characters are still holding cameras when shit goes down, especially in these horror movies, where it's like Cloverfield. It's a good movie, but it's like,
why would he be filming?
He's literally getting attacked by these monsters, and they're still holding this big ass camera, and you're like, if this is real, that'd be the first thing you dump. Like, who cares if you're filming? Blair Witch does it really well, I think. Mm-hmm. This movie, like, I was buying it at first because I'm like, okay, they're making kind of a documentary. But then the second this dude puts the stupid headlamps on, and then makes a click sound, and then like all of a sudden you see the camera angles from their foreheads. But when you look at the lamps, there's clearly no camera there. But they've got 4K freaking 60 FPS cameras.
Really clear pin cams in their headlamps.
My God, really? Like this, I'm sure this exists, but he's got 6 of them and just like doesn't care, puts them on everybody's forehead. It also carries around this big ass camera, which when we talk about later in the movie, it's like literally follows them almost to the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Despite everything they go through. But I'm like, whatever. I'll look past that for now. I thought you were going to say something.
No, I'm trying to think of what happened after that, because then it just starts, the rest of the movie basically is them underground. And so of course you see some weird cult stuff going on when they first enter. There's like a glowing room of like naked ladies chanting stuff.
So random.
And then Papillon's like, oh yeah, like weird stuff happens down here.
Such like a passing thing, right? Like they're not even that deep in yet. It's like right when they go under. There's just a whole room full of topless women chanting or something like that, and they're just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
So they
cool with it.
They start finding this passage, and this is where stuff starts getting weird, because remember they crawl over the bones, and then stupid Benji of course gets stuck.
Ugh.
And he's like, I'm stuck, help me. And then they're like, shove the bones out of the way. So he starts like shoving the bones out of the way underneath them, and then something collapses just by doing that. Like the whole floor behind them collapses. Yeah. Which I'm like, okay. And then
he's also still holding the big ass camera when he's stuck. He's stuck. He's literally freaking out, like panicking, but he's still holding the camera facing him. And then they push it through, and someone grabs the camera with them and pulls him through. I'm like, okay, whatever. But yeah, then literally the whole thing collapses.
Yeah,
like,
so then they're forced to go down this tunnel that supposedly wasn't supposed to be there, but it appeared there. That Papillon said no one comes out if you go through this tunnel, but they have nowhere else to go because the thing collapsed behind them, so they have to go through this.
Right.
And
then the phone.
Oh yeah, and that's when the weird stuff starts happening. They find a piano down there.
Was phone that first? Yeah.
Yeah, they see the piano because that's when George is like, oh, I had a piano just like this. The A4 key was messed up, and then
just leads you right into that.
Yeah, that was from the preview. The preview, I remember that piano scene.
Ugh.
Then the phone starts ringing. There's like random phone down there.
Well, yeah, he's like, oh, there used to be phone lines in here. Like, yeah, that's how that works. All the phone lines ring themselves, not the phones they're connected to.
And then they find that creepy guy who was Papillon's friend, who went missing 2 years ago in the catacombs.
Ugh.
And he's just like standing there all scary looking. And he's like, you never came looking for me. And then he's like, oh, you're looking for a way out. Follow me. So then they follow this creepy guy, and he leads them to this giant well. And he's like, you got to go down to get out. And they're like, okay. So they like rappel down this well.
Well, the guy wasn't surprised at all to see his friend.
Yeah, he there's obviously something off with him. He was totally out of it. His eyes were like black, and he was really scary.
Really terrible actor.
Well, they're just like following him, like, and then he's like, yeah, you gotta go down here. And they're like, okay. Like, why would you believe him? He was obviously not in his right mind if you could even believe he was still down there after 2 years.
They're just literally being pulled along by the plot. Like, they don't have any instincts as characters or anything like that. No decision-making skills.
Well, Scarlet, her whole thing is like, yeah, like, the treasure, we gotta find it.
She doesn't give a fuck about any of them. She's just like, let's
We got to
go
keep
for it.
going. Doesn't matter.
That was the whole thing. Like I mentioned before, she always runs ahead of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
When that phone was ringing, that's all she did. They're all together in a group, and she just darted off like a freaking dog after a squirrel. Started running down all these corridors, and everyone's like, "Stop! What are you doing?"
Yeah, you can easily get lost down there.
Like,
she's just like running
makes
off.
no sense. She's supposed to be like the smart one too.
Yeah, she's very impulsive.
Well, and yes, she picks the phone up and she hears like,
I think that's supposed to be her dad.
yeah, it was. I don't remember what he was saying though. Like
something like, "Why didn't you talk to me?" or something.
Yeah.
Why won't you talk to me?
You find out that her dad killed himself, trying to look for the stone because he kept failing. And I guess he called her and she didn't pick up.
Mm-hmm.
And he killed himself right after that. So obviously she feels guilty, which is like a reoccurring theme throughout this movie. I don't remember how the piano was connected, honestly. I'm probably just dumb. Though.
It was connected to George, but there wasn't any.
Yeah, but I don't know what relation it had to like.
They just needed
his
something.
Brother dying.
There wasn't. I don't think.
Wow, just creepy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, like you said, the creepy friend that appears, and Papillon is just like, "Yeah, that's him. Let's follow him." And they're like, "Why are we following this guy?" And he's like, "I don't know. We don't have any better idea." And they're like, "Okay, yeah, true, I guess."
And then when they're following him, doesn't something else collapse behind them?
Things collapse a lot in this movie, so I kind of...
But before they go down the well the first time, like, I think something else collapsed behind them. But anyway, so, yeah, they go down this well, and the creepy guy comes down. They don't even show him, like, repelling or anything, because he's acting so weird, but he just, like, follows them.
I don't know, he probably just teleports everywhere, and they're fine with it.
Yeah, so once they get down there, I don't even remember the sequence of stuff that happened. They go down the well, and then they find like random passages.
It's literally a mess.
Like she knows the symbolism or whatever, and then that's when they find that Templar Knight, his body laying there in like perfect condition,
not rotting.
Yes, and then she sees this glowing light in the water, and she goes down. And
she's
then,
like, "Yep, might as well just dive," you know.
And that's when they finally find the treasure room, and it's like so exciting. They find all this gold, and then she sees all this ancient Egyptian writing and symbolism on the wall, and there's a stone, and she's like saying all this stuff about Egyptian mythology, about the sun, whatever. The sun giving birth to something, and
she's just feeling around this really poorly painted wall.
Yeah, so she finds the stone, right? And then she chisels it out of the wall.
Yeah.
And then something clicks in her head. Because the Papillon and his crew start like ripping out this door that's in front of the treasure.
Yeah, it looks like a prison gate, and behind it is like the treasure. And they must have been trying to open it, and they would just like pull it off.
It must have been a support beam or something.
What? It literally made no sense. Because they didn't even pull a beam out. They just pulled out the door from the door frame.
Yeah, so they yank the door out and then the whole roof collapses.
So, like, they must be super freaking strong to be able to just straight up pull it off the hinges. Like this steel gate.
Mm.
And the whole freaking tunnel collapses on them. Well, of course, no. They're able to get out just in the nick of time. Then, I don't even know where another passage appears or something, right? Doesn't it like appear in the wall?
Well, because that's when George is like, they'd never make only one entrance to the treasure room. There's got to be another. And she's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, real Nick Cage moment.
Yeah, exactly. So then they go down another corridor, and that's when they find all the stones. And she's like, I don't even know what they were talking about. There's 7 planets or something at the time. Oh, but no.
I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, don't you remember when they were she knew that they had to pull some stone out in order for another passage, or did that already happen? I don't even know. This movie, recollecting what happened, I'm forgetting the sequence of stuff.
Yeah, me too, because it's all just bland and like tied together.
At some point they had to pull the right stone out, remember?
No.
They're talking about the planets. Oh, okay. Well, I'm trying to think of what happened after that.
Let's just skip to the
Parts we remember was
entrance to the cave. Not the cave, but hell. They see the inscription. They go down that creepy tunnel that just opens up when everything
I think they went down a few more wells too, right? Didn't they?
I don't think so yet. I think that's after because they have.
Oh no, because what happened was at some point she sees the picture and she's like, that's when she said, "Oh, as above, so below," and she sees like a door.
Oh yeah,
some sort of door carving on the stone ceiling, and then there's this like pool of water underneath her feet, and she's like, "Oh, there's an exit if we like smash through the floor." So she smashes through with her shoe, literally smashes through the stone with her shoe, and then the water and it opens up this other passageway, and that's when they find the passage that says "Hell is this way" or something.
Yeah, hell is this way.
Whatever
this way to hell. The arrows pointing down.
Yeah, so then they crawl through like the gates of hell. And then that's when everything looks exactly the same, and they start realizing like it looks exactly the same, but it's different. And they just keep spiraling through the same sequence of events over and over as they keep traveling through the tunnels.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
And then that's kind of how.
Not really interesting.
And then this is where the movie kind of went south for me, because all that supernatural stuff started happening, where I think the first person who dies is that Suxi, because that creepy guy they found down there who had been trapped. He's like sitting in the corner.
Yeah. And
they're like, "Are you okay?"
And Blair Witch style.
And she goes up to him, and then he like bites her neck, or no, he smashes her head in the ground.
Bite her.
And then that's when
literally like picks her up in front of him, and just like bah, slaps on the ground, and then hits her head on the ground a couple more times before they're like, "Oh shit," and they separate them.
And the stone won't work to revive her. And then,
well, yeah, we should have established she used the stone before to heal her.
Oh yeah, that was when her arm hurt. Her arm got scratched up.
Did she get bitten, or was it? Yeah, I think it was scratched.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if she shaved a piece of the rock off with some. I don't know how that worked. Somehow got a piece of the rock off in her arm or cut, and it healed up. And you're like, oh, okay. That's how they established that the stone has like healing powers. And, when she dies, and then she's like, it's too late. She's already dead. It doesn't work.
Yeah, and then the next person is Papillon, right? They keep walking. They see this car on fire. No,
that's after. Benji dies next.
Oh, yeah, Benji.
Which is literally so stupid. And this is where, it was already going downhill for me, but jump scare wise, this movie just had like the dumbest jump scares ever. And this is one of them where it was like, everyone had already rappelled down this cave, and it was Benji's turn, and he's like, obviously the scaredy cat of the group, and he's up top. And he's like, and he's looking around. And of course, he looks behind him and checks the rope, turns around, looks forward. And as he looks forward, a woman walks by in the background. And then he turns back around and he's looking, and you're like, oh, she's going to pop out. Obviously, it waits and waits. And then he like picks his camera up and is looking around with the camera. And then he turns around again, and there she is. And it's not even like, oh my God, it's not even like a scary jump scare. It's frightening because obviously it's like, bah. But like the face the woman makes is fucking stupid. Like they were just like, hey, go into the camera. And she just like leans forward like, and he's like, oh. And you see him slip, and then it cuts down to the bottom, and you're like, well, I bet he's going to slam onto the ground. And of course, right onto the ground.
Well, that's the part that kind of confused me, unless I missed something, because all the characters seemed to have some sort of guilt they were feeling. But what was Benji's thing? Because
didn't have one.
Because he saw this creepy lady in the nightclub at the beginning, and then he saw her again in the catacombs.
They all saw her.
But he's the only one who really noticed her. I feel like she kept staring at him. Remember?
No, I figured she was just staring at all of them.
I think it was specifically him. She was like kind of following him.
I didn't get that at all.
So then she's the one that kills him. and then he dies, and they're all freaking out.
I don't even think it was the same woman.
Yeah, it was.
Are you sure?
Uh-huh.
I really didn't think so.
It was. Because her name is on in the credits of the cast.
As what?
As strange young woman.
Yeah, I know that. I don't think it's the same woman that's in the catacombs with him.
Yeah, it is.
When he dies. I really don't think so. We gotta watch it again, but
well, I also closed my eyes at that part because I knew there was going to be a jump scare.
Literally looked like a way older woman with like shorter black hair.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying. It's literally a different person.
Well, I don't know. So then he dies and everyone, starts getting really scared and they're just like, okay, we got to keep moving. And that's when you see that burning car, right?
Yeah, and honestly, all the hate I've been giving this movie, I think this is my favorite scene. It like looked the coolest, I think, because they obviously they hear a fire raging, and they're slowly turning the corner, and they see like the light from the fire, and when they turn it, it's like a whole car on fire in the middle of this cave, with like a woman sitting in the back seat, just like on fire.
No, it wasn't a woman. It was that guy in the beginning who was like, "Pepion will take you there." That was him.
Literally thought it was like an old woman with a perm.
It was the ghost guy from the catacombs who told Scarlet that Papillon will show them the way.
Oh, well, that's awkward.
Because I don't think they talked about this until this point, but for some reason Papillon was responsible for his death, which was his guilt, because when they turn and see that car on fire, Papillon's like, he says something like, it wasn't my fault or something, or I didn't mean to.
It wasn't my fault.
Yeah, he says something like that. So then you kind of get the point, like, oh, he did something that ended up killing this guy who was probably his friend or something.
Well, it would have been nice if it was established or something.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
None of this was established.
That was another issue I had, because I didn't realize that George's brother dying was mentioned before the end. But like, you're just hit with all these stories, and like nothing was established before that, so you're just all of a sudden like, oh, Papillon like feels this guilt. It's like at that point we didn't know anything else about him, just that he knew the catacombs and he wanted treasure. So it's like you just didn't know anything about him. So why do I care that?
I think there's just too much.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They just try to shove too many stories into one movie.
Well, yeah, they would have had to take so much time in the beginning to establish everybody's source of guilt. But still, I think this is still one of my favorite scenes in the movie. One of the few scenes that's like, you can actually see it clearly pretty much. Mm-hmm. There's not like the annoying shaking and the camera cutting out conveniently, so they don't have to show crazy special effects. But it was literally like, what happens? He like starts getting sucked in almost. Mm-hmm. And you see his feet like getting dragged, and they're like trying to pull him back. And the dude gets out of the car and like grabs him, and if he gets like sucked into the car, and the whole car like crumples up and lands on the ground. And as it lands on the ground, like it morphs into Papillon's like feet sticking out upside down, and he's like kicking, and you can hear him like kind of screaming from under the ground, and then he dies. I'm like, that's so cool. Why can't the rest of the movie be like this creative and unique? Like, okay, just this one scene, that's fine.
Yeah, there was some imagery that I liked, like that was okay, but then there was some that I didn't like when they were traveling through some little tunnel with water at the bottom of it, and George sees like his brother's face coming up through the water. It looked like a TV screen or something. It looked so bad.
Probably was.
Like it looked so fake. And of course he's like, my brother's down there. I gotta save him. So
like, yeah, all this shit has been like fake, and everyone knows it's been just like images.
But it's like, even at that part, like I feel like the character development was just non-existent, because I didn't feel bad for George and his brother. Like I didn't feel bad for anybody. Like I just did not care.
Literally just met this guy in a clock like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, and you're supposed to be invested in his life and what happened to him.
I care about this guy because he's a good guy. He breaks into places, but he fixes things. You're supposed to care about him.
Yeah, I feel like that's also why they gave everybody a little story to make you feel sorry for them. But I just didn't.
Yeah, me neither. Didn't care about any of these people at all. But anyway, I still can't even remember the order, but obviously Benji's dead. And it's literally just, I think now it's just the three of them left, right?
Yeah, that other French guy who he had like barely any part in this movie. Papillon's other friend, this guy, and then George and Scarlett are left.
Right. And then I don't know, they just keep going down, and then
this is part that actually did scare me is when they reach some room and there's a chair and there's that cloaked figure in the chair sitting there who I guess is supposed to be like the devil or something. And but
I don't know about that.
What, that it's the devil?
Yeah.
I don't know. I read that on something that it was supposed to be the devil. I don't know.
Yeah, of course.
But anyway, just the scene of like when that cloaked figure like gets up and turns to look at them and he has like that white face.
Yep.
I thought that was creepy.
I didn't.
Really?
I thought it was so stupid.
But then it turns stupid because then those stone faces in the wall like jump out and attack George. I'm like, ugh.
Oh, I know.
It's so stupid.
I knew that was going to happen too because
Me too. They kept showing them.
When it happened, I was in my head for a split second. I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool," but then another half second passed, and I was like, "No, this is not cool. Actually, this is really stupid." It's like two actors in like just white face paint going, "Ah."
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? What is that? Why?
Yeah, so then George is like dying because he just got bitten by a stone guy, and Scarlett realizes that the stone can't save him, so then she goes all the way back to where they found the stone.
Oh my god. Yeah, we don't understand why, but
it doesn't work down there.
Yeah, she like rubs it in like she did last time and it worked. Nothing happens. And then she figures out why. She's like, "Oh, it has to be rectified." And you're like, "What? Why? Where'd you come up with this? Like, talk to us, lady. Come on." And then her Krav Maga skills come in. I was laughing about it when I was talking to you about it. It's like they talked about all of her degrees and then her like martial arts skills. And how does it come in handy? Because she's able to just like push the wall creature away real quick.
Yeah.
She doesn't do anything crazy. She's just like running and just like swats it. Like, wow, yeah.
Yeah, so then she puts the stone back in the little hole that she found it in, and then she sees this little mirror right in front of her on the wall, and she wipes it away and she sees herself.
Yeah, she's like an epiphany.
So she's like,
I don't know what, but
that's when I was like, oh, does it mean that she like it's the powers within her if she believes it is? I think that was the point of it, that she has to realize like it's within her or something. So then she goes back and then she finds George and then she like kisses him or something, right? Is that what she did?
Yeah, I think it's because they had like some sort of romantic fling
in Turkey.
Yeah, it ended obviously with him going to prison and he held it against her. So I think that was her rectifying that situation, because that's what she's all about now, is rectifying situations. So I think because she originally heals him with her hand around his neck, and then she kisses him, and he becomes like full again, if you could say that. So I think that's what happened there. And then this whole situation I just didn't get. Like, what? Why does she all of a sudden think she's got to rectify everything? Maybe it's just like some lore or some mythos that I just don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, whatever. I just didn't follow her motives at all. She's just like figuring out all this stuff without bringing us with her. It almost just felt like we were being dragged along, not really with her, you know? Whereas in like a Nick Cage National Treasure movie, you follow the thought process with him because he explains it.
Yeah.
He explains it through the use of other characters that are helping him figure it out. Where it's like this, she's just kind of like figuring it all out on her own. And it's annoying. Because I don't think I'm stupid, but this movie made me feel stupid because I'm like, I even turned to you in the middle of the movie like, yeah, I really don't understand how she figured that out. I don't get it.
Well, yeah, and then like, so she'll say something like, oh, this is what needs to happen. And then all this other, like, you'll be bombarded with all this other like action stuff. So you're just like confused. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, stuff's happening.
Well, yeah, they it's almost like they wanted to go for that Dante's Inferno angle. kind of. So it's like, yeah, they keep going down into like the next level or the next gate of hell, but then they don't really do anything on those levels, because obviously it's supposed to be like I don't remember the freaking names of the levels, but I know each level has like a different sin or something, and it's like I feel like they glazed over that. They kind of like drew me in, like when they went in initially, and they were like, "This is the gateway to hell," and I was like, "Oh, okay, this is getting kind of interesting." But then all I do is just keep going down, and then I keep seeing like a spooky thing, and I'm like, "Okay, this isn't really interesting to me."
And then like, I don't know if this is it just seems random or it is random that there's all this Egyptian stuff in the catacombs of Paris. That's just there. I'm like, what?
It's like they just rented a bunch of books from the library on conspiracies and things, and they're just like, let's sprinkle some of this in there. Let's sprinkle some, because it's like, how many different lores are they using? They're using like
there's just too much going on.
Dante's Inferno, and then they're using the Philosopher's Stone, and then it's a random Egyptian shit that I'm like, I thought I knew a lot about the Philosopher's Stone and stuff, but I don't remember any of that.
Yeah, I know.
But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I mean, still, it just seems like there's so many different themes going on and settings. It's like all just jam packed together, and they just like, some things they focus on a little bit too much, and other things they just like zoom past. Especially like the whole nine levels of hell. They're literally just going down hole after hole after hole, and it's like, it's literally just feels like they're running to the end, which I mean, they should, because they're trying to get out. But from like a movie standpoint, it just like means nothing to us. It's like they don't need to show all that if nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah. So then what happens is George gets saved. He's fine. And then that's when they find that really long tunnel, right? And she's like, we have to jump.
Yeah.
And then she's like, she makes George say, like, what happened with your brother? Or like, why do you feel horrible about that?
Yeah, because now she's explaining to them what's going on.
Yeah, like,
she's got it all figured out now. Like, something happened to both of you guys that you feel guilty about, and we have to rectify it.
I don't even remember what the other guy said.
Who cares?
Like, he was just there. So then, yeah, they all say like whatever they feel bad about. They jump down this long hole that they just keep falling.
Oh, we also glossed over her saying her dad again.
Oh yeah.
And she didn't really do anything. She just like hugged him and cried. She said, "I'm sorry." I'm like, all right, I guess that's enough. But yeah, now she's like this is where she explains to everyone else what's going on, and somehow she knows that they just have to jump down this pit. And obviously they like lit a piece of paper on fire and dropped it down. And you see like it's so far down, you can't even see the bottom. And they just like, I just couldn't follow the thought process yet again. Why she just like knows we just got to jump down here. I just know it, and we'll be okay. Don't worry. And obviously they're a little skeptical at first, but then they obviously jump down because they're probably like, we got nothing fucking else to do. Just like that's why they followed him down initially down that tunnel, and then they just they fall down, and it looks so bad in my opinion. And then it just obviously it cuts out when they're supposed to land, quote unquote, land. Because I mean, if you look at it from like the movie maker's perspective, how are they really going to show them landing without getting hurt? So it just like cuts to black, and you hear them like thud, 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 and they wake up like, oh my god, like what happened? I'm like, what? I mean, I don't know. You can take it from here, I guess.
Yeah. So then they find this circle in the ground, and they're like, let's try to get out. Like, let's pull on it or whatever. And then they realize they have to push on it to make it come out.
Yeah, he's like, oh, it's a manhole cover.
Yeah. So then
I'm like, oh,
they push onto it, and they realize that it's like, because they're upside down, that they have to push on it and they shove it out of the way, and then they crawl out, and they're back in Paris.
Right. I thought that was kind of cool too.
I thought that scene looked cool, and then I was really waiting at the end when they all get out. I was waiting for like that creepy guy to come back or like something like weird to happen, but it kind of just ends, which I'm glad about. Actually,
the French guy just like kind of walks away slowly from them.
He's probably like, this was horrible, and just walks away.
Yeah, because he's not friends with them. So
Yeah.
he's like, this is weird. But yeah, I definitely did think that was like a cool scene to do. Because I looked over at you and I'm like, I just really hope some dumb shit doesn't happen where they like try to go through and they just like falls up into the sky or something like that. But no, it's kind of cool because I don't know if it's a satchel or something they throw down first, and it cuts to like the above view and you see it kind of go up and then down.
Oh yeah, it was like her fanny pack or something.
Yeah, I'm like a sucker for that kind of stuff, like playing the Portal games
Mm-hmm.
and messing around with like the gravity and stuff. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like that. And then you could just the way they were crawling through was cool because it did look good. Oh, sorry. Oh boy, the Chinese food's coming back up. But yeah, it definitely like I could feel the struggle of them like fighting the changing gravity.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, that's so cool. It's like the only other interesting thing in this movie other than the car fire scene. But yeah, then it just ends. So I mean, I guess that's good. But
Yeah, I mean, I think. Well, I read that they actually did film it in the catacombs, which was cool. So
That's
they actually
creepy.
were able to film down there. And they said it was really hard on the crew. I guess Ben Feldman, the guy who played George, had a lot of issues with claustrophobia when they went down there to film. So he had to like keep taking breaks. But they actually were able to film it there.
What a diva.
They were actually able to film it, which is cool. I didn't particularly feel that like claustrophobia feeling, but I mean, I don't really feel that anyway, but I guess some people might be freaked out by that in this movie. But yeah, like I said, I just feel like the idea was good, but I didn't like the whole mythology. I know that was like a giant part of the movie, but I don't know. I think I was just too distracted by all that.
So was I. I did not like the supernatural aspect at all.
Yeah.
Like, I was really racking my brain because we watched this yesterday and I went to sleep and like was really thinking what I could have done to make it better. Because I don't want to just like complain that I didn't like the supernatural aspect, but then not really have an alternative. And I just can't really pinpoint it. Like, I think it would have been more interesting if they maybe just stuck with the cult aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the first summoning. Like, as much shit as we gave that movie, I definitely did like the concept of like, it's a cult and they're dealing with all like the satanic stuff. And, they don't really necessarily get into like the crazy supernatural stuff in that movie. Did they even do anything supernatural in that movie? I can't remember. I don't think they did. I think they just focused on like the ritual.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the twist in the end where like the main character is actually the bad guy. And then he cuts his friends' heads off. And then that's it. I feel like they should have done something like that. Where it's like they established the kind of cult aspect when they go down there first. Like, oh, there's all these creepy women, like, chanting and stuff like that. And they keep seeing all these weird things. I wouldn't have minded if they had a couple people, like, walk by in, like, robes or something like that. And then eventually they start uncovering what's really going on. But I just feel like the supernatural stuff just, like, hits out of nowhere. And then it's just, like, vision after vision. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't really, like, I'm not feeling it, you know?
Yeah, I think back to The Descent, which is a movie we both really like.
Yeah.
I think that movie's really scary.
Yeah. Definitely.
And there isn't a lot of fluff around that movie. It's just they go into the caves, there's some creepy creatures, they get stuck down there, and that's the movie. Like, I feel like if they could have done something like that, where they just get stuck down there, get rid of all the Nick Cage stuff, and then them just, either them actually getting like followed by something real or them kind of slowly losing their mind while they're down there. That would have, for me, been a lot better than all this Egyptian stuff that they're thrown in and I don't know. It didn't work for me.
You know what I think? I think it wasn't really established, like any of the supernatural stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they kind of hinted at it in the beginning, like when they show her talking about kind of all that stuff, if she had made mentions of their beliefs and that Because I don't even think she talks about any of the hell stuff. She just talks about the Philosopher's Stone stuff in the beginning. Like, literally no mention of hell. And then all that hell stuff just kind of comes after. And that's when all the supernatural stuff happens. And I think, I don't know, because even like Indiana Jones movies kind of have a slight supernatural hint to them, but most of them are rooted in like reality. Like, I think it's the second one, Temple of Doom. Have you seen it?
Mm-mm.
Where it's like, it's ritualistic, and long story short, in the end, he's like trying to rescue somebody from this ritual, and the guy like is literally supernatural. And he like reaches into the dude's chest and pulls his heart out, his like still beating heart. And even that is like, obviously it's not possible. But when it happens in the movie, you're like, I buy it, because it still fits kind of the theme. And it's not that unrealistic kind of for him to run into that, because they don't go way overboard. So I think if they kind of did that with this movie, I would buy it more. But I just don't. I don't buy it at all. This movie was such a mess.
Or even sticking with the Dante's Inferno aspect, but getting rid of all the other crap. That would have been okay.
Right. Just pick one.
Yeah. They just have too much going on. And then in the mix of all of these different themes, you're all supposed to get the backstory of every character and care about every character.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And they just didn't have time or the development for any of that to work.
It's like those sprinkles on ice creams that are like the rainbow sprinkles.
Mm-hmm.
They just like dumped it everywhere, and they're like, oh, we got all these different aspects. Screw it. Just like put them all together. Like, whatever. It'll be a good movie because it's found footage and it's Paris catacombs, which are scary. It's like, yeah, they are, but
yeah, that's just the issue we always have with movies, scary movies that are filmed recently. There's just too much going on. They just try to make too many scary things happen.
I think this movie could have been way scarier if it wasn't found footage. Screw the production value of going into the actual catacombs. Build some sets, get some nice shots, because like you, I didn't get any feelings of claustrophobia, and I'm very claustrophobic. And the idea of going into the actual catacombs like freaks me out because of how small they are. This movie did not give me those feelings at all, which is kind of sad now, knowing that they really did film them down there.
Yeah, because why was that missing, do you think? The way it was shot or something?
Yeah, I think in their heads, they're like, well, if we actually film it there, it'll get the same feeling. But there's a lot of different like camera shots that can attain that without actually going there. It's weird because, I mean, I could get into like camera lenses and sensors and all this stuff on how, like, if I just took a camera down there right now and recorded, it's not the same as if like you and I actually went there and saw with our own eyes. It's the same thing with VR. If you watch like a VR video, someone playing VR, it's just not the same as like when you actually put the goggles on, you know, that feeling you get. Those feelings you can actually recreate with different camera angles and like lenses and shots and stuff. There's plenty of movies like The Descent that give you very claustrophobic feelings with just like specific camera angles and shots and stuff like that. So I definitely think this movie could have benefited more by not being found footage, because the found footage was just, I think it was just stupid and disorienting at times. It was like a cheap way for them to be able to cut stuff out, not explain why. Like, oh, we don't want to show this crazy thing that would cost a bunch of money to film, so we'll just cut the sound out, and we'll all of a sudden make all the cameras go black, and then all you hear is like everyone screaming because something's happening, but we don't have to show it. It's just lame.
Yeah, I think when people do that, they try to make it seem like, oh, this is such a raw movie because it's found footage, and then they kind of maybe get lazy with other aspects of it because they think that they're going to get enough realness from just having that. Yeah,
it's just like when things start going crazy in these movies, it's like I literally just glaze over in my eyes because things are just changing so fast, and I'm like, I don't even know what's going on, so I'm not even going to bother like watching. And like you said, the movie is just so, it doesn't follow any sort of structure, so it's like it's hard for us to kind of follow the sequence of events because every shot is the same. And I mean, obviously, it's the catacombs. You can only have so many different looks and stuff, but there's just no established, like, this is the next area they're going into. It's just all kind of jumbled together because it looks exactly the same. So and obviously the characters aren't progressing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how are we as an audience supposed to know that they're progressing? So it's pretty bad when both of us had the same problem of what the hell happened next. It's like, I can picture everything that happened in the movie, but if you told me to like lay it out in front of me in what order they happened, I like couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It sucks. I hated this movie. Just get that out of the way now, I guess.
I think it slightly was better than I thought it was going to be, but it suffered from the things that I expected it was going to suffer from, which we already talked about, the reasons why we didn't like it.
Yeah.
It got a lot of good reviews, but also bad reviews. I don't know, like when I read the reviews, a lot of them are like, oh, this movie's so great. It was so scary, but I mean, that's just personal opinion.
Yeah.
People find different things scary.
I don't know that I trust all the reviews on IMDb anymore.
I mean, I don't either, because
that Shed of the Dead movie got really good reviews, but then also really bad reviews. So I'm like, who the hell?
Was it so bad it was good?
No.
It was just bad.
Yeah, it's just one of those movies that they were trying too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just horrible. But there was literally 10 out of 10 reviews on it. So I'm like, I literally don't know what's going on anymore.
I'm trying to think what I would give this movie.
I hate to say it, but I think it'd probably lean more towards like a 4 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I was going to give it like a 5. Just like very average.
Yeah.
Not terrible.
Well, it's a movie. Can't get it a 0 out of 10.
I thought the characters were a big problem because I didn't care about them. A lot of them, like Scarlett was annoying. So just the characters in general, I just didn't like them. And then the whole storyline itself was kind of jumbled up. Too many themes going on.
I feel bad because I'm glad we have reviews on our podcast that are good, because it almost feels like we hate on every single movie we see.
It's just a lot of scary movies nowadays. It's really hard to find a good one that's actually scary.
It's like, it's not really our fault. Like, we're not really, I promise you guys, we're not going into these movies like trying to hate them.
Also, Netflix has a really bad selection. But that's how we find most of them.
Telling you, let me introduce you to the Bollywood movies.
Is that horror?
No, I'm just saying there's some gems. Netflix has a lot of them. A lot of Bollywood movies.
Well, we got to try to find one. Maybe an older one or something. An indie one, maybe.
Yeah. That
could be better because I just don't want any jump scares.
I don't mind jump scares if they're good. I don't want jump scares that are just frightening, because I could make a jump scare right now, even though there's no established characters or anything like that. All I have to do is show a quiet scene and then have something appear and a really loud sound happening. It's like anybody can do that now.
You can see it coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's just, I don't know. I don't.
We need to watch It Follows, because
oh yeah, you like that movie.
I love that movie. There's no jump scares, but there's a scene. I don't want to ruin it now because I want to watch it with you. Maybe for this podcast. But there is a scene in there. Everyone's kind of just chilling, and then all of a sudden, the tension goes up slightly, and then all of a sudden something happens, and it's not frightening. Like, it doesn't make you go, whoa, but it's definitely tense, and it like, you'll get goosebumps when it happens. And it's just like, it's so effective and terrifying, but it doesn't like jump up in your face like, wow, like nothing jumps out. And it's just like, it's one of my favorite scenes in that movie. And it really just reassures me like, okay, well, it is still possible to have this effect on people and not do constant jump scares. I was looking for another reason to use that during the episode.
Yeah, maybe someone will make another getting stuck in the Paris catacombs, but just tone it down, make it better and scarier. I think there's still room for that because they've just exhausted so many other themes they could do just in horror movies in general.
Yeah.
That this one is I thought it was kind of a different take, just the idea of it being down there. So maybe someone else will do something with it.
Well, not us. And definitely not them again, I hope. They're going to have a sequel, maybe. As to the left, so to the right. Like, oh, God. And it's not going to be... It's going to be a mockumentary about the
like
making of the first movie and something.
Papillon's cousin goes down to try to find him.
There's another movie I want to watch with you. I don't know what it's called, but it was literally like some haunting or some haunting movie, found footage, and the sequel is literally what I just described, where it's like a documentary team is doing like a documentary on the original movie, because in the sequel, the original movie is a movie. It wasn't real, and upon doing research on it, they realize like some weird stuff is going on. I gotta look it up. I could definitely see them doing that kind of thing with this sequel, but
it'd probably be better than this.
There's a lot of movies that are definitely better than this. 4 out of 10.
Yeah. Well,
would you recommend?
I mean, probably not.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything special that would make this movie. Why watch this over other scary movies?
I can't even think of anybody in my family, and my family likes really bad movies. Can't even think of anybody I'd recommend to in my family. That's saying something.
Unless you like a mix of National Treasure, a dash of Harry Potter, some Dante's Inferno, and Indiana Jones all mashed into one, but bad.
I mean, I don't think you even had to say "and bad." It's already a setup for failure. Just those
and a
movies.
little of The Mummy, maybe.
Ugh. Yeah, probably. All right. Well, I think we've kind of beat this to death.
Yeah.
I didn't even look at my notes because all my notes started with very bad this, very bad that. I don't know. Did you get through all yours at least?
Yeah.
All right. That makes me feel better then. Yeah. It's mostly just bad dialogue. Bad dialogue. We have to leave. Remember the ceiling was cracking. One of the characters like, we have to leave. I'm like, yeah, thanks. Thanks for pointing that out, buddy. Oh, I love it.
Well, next time, hopefully we'll have a better movie we can talk about.
Oh, yes. I wrote that the whole movie felt like a haunted trail.
Oh, yeah, that too. A little bit.
Just as a little thing to slide in there at the end of the episode here. Definitely, if you guys are looking to watch this movie, if you guys really like going on haunted trails and how nothing is really connected, it just feels like you're going on this long path of jump scares and stuff, then maybe this movie is for you. But I'm going to say most likely not, because there's some really good haunted trails out there that'll put this movie to shame.
Yes.
And that being said, I'm gonna start doing this at the end of my outros. Thank you for watching episode 7 of the Blair Witch Podcast with your hosts Taylor and Alexandra. Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening. Tune in next time for another movie. And then I'd also just like to slip in there at the end of this. We still have our Patreon open and up and running. I may do some tweaking to some of the tier levels. And then also, if you guys would like to reach out to us, we have an email. That email.
Please give us a movie to watch. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. That's going to be one of our tiers. We'll definitely look at suggestions and stuff. Well, I think one of the tiers for our podcast, for our Patreon, is like discussing with us and having polls and stuff on what movies to watch next. Our email is literally blairwitchpodcast@gmail.com. That is That is blairwitchpodcast@gmail.com. Yeah, so just shoot us an email. We'll I've got it open all the time on my phone, so I will see it the second you guys email. Definitely looking for suggestions because we find ourselves just scrolling through Netflix and Hulu movies. But we definitely like to review movies that you guys want us to review. And we're definitely open to watching the worst, shittiest horror movies or the best. So nothing is out of our realm of reviewing. Would you say that's a good description?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, goodbye again, and thank you for listening for the 4th time.
Bye.
Want me to give you reverb too?
Yeah. I'm trying to... Wait, how do you say bye in French? Au revoir?
I have no idea.
I want to be like Papillon.
Adios.
Close enough.
Adios, amigos.
Au revoir.
Ova.
Au revoir.
Ovaries.